Hello, my name's Michael Parker. I'm a traditionally published author. I have 9 traditionally published books to my credit and a 10th self-published book. I ventured into self-publishing a couple of years ago and I'm with the Chichester Independent Writers, Chindi, and it's through them that I've learned a great deal about publishing. My latest book, which is completely self-published, is A Dangerous Game, and it's a thriller set in Mexico, and it begins life in Arizona, in America. It's a thriller and involves the theft of $10 billion in gold. There are 3 main characters in the story. One of them, Emilio Valdez, is a Colombian. Beginning on chapter 1. Emilio Valdez knew he was taking a massive gamble. The trip was planned to be a meeting of minds, a cumbre of Latin American leaders, where they would discuss the new cooperation between their countries, while behind closed doors, other less public issues would be talked over. There would be hard bargaining, veiled threats, and pseudo-promises as the power brokers had their wishes sewn into the fabric of any agreement, however temporary, between the men in suits. Valdez would be mixing with the big hitters in South American politics, but he had to appear to be acting normally for his audacious plan to succeed. The flight to Mexico City for the meeting had been delayed because of a crew change. The co-pilot had phoned in sick. Although Valdez was not unsettled by this change of events, he felt apprehensive. By operating in the confined world of the drug cartels, often with the unspoken threat of falling out of favour with the ruthless bosses, Valdez always understood that changes should not be forced upon him. It led to misunderstanding and often lack of trust. But the die had been cast and the delay had to be factored in. The bank transfers were planned for midnight the following day, Western Standard Time, which would be the start of business day in Switzerland. It meant he would spend a great deal of time living on his nerves, and until he was airborne, he knew he would not and could not rest easily. He heard the sound of a car horn and glanced at the gold Rolex on his wrist, and picking up his briefcase and small travelling bag, he took one last look around the room and headed for the door. The sun disappeared below the horizon and allowed the ground to give up its heat. The lights were coming on in the city and day was giving way to night. Traffic was beginning to ease up, but soon the evening air would be filled with different sounds. Throughout the city, those people who populated the darkness were beginning to leave their homes and find the dark corners where they found stimulus in the nightlife. The hookers would walk the streets, the dealers would sell their drugs in shop doorways and back alleyways. The nightclubs would fill with drinkers and the roulette tables with gamblers, ever praying Lady Luck would be their companion that night. And the sound of police sirens would provide a backdrop to the dark symphony of the small hours Valdez had no interest in it anyway. He was heading for an unknown future, one that could separate him from a past that always threatened to overwhelm him, but always also provided everything he ever needed. I'll just break there because Valdez flies in a private jet which crashes in the Sonora Desert, just on the American-Mexican border. And the National Transportation Safety Board sent a team of specialists in known as the GO Team. The GO Team is headed here by Nathaniel Jakes. Jakes was at his desk working on his ever-burgeoning report and enjoying a welcome relief from the blazing sun when one of the specialists working at the site walked in through the entrance. He pulled off his protective mask and leather gloves as he approached the head of the GO Team. His name was Gino Valenta, a specialist whose gruesome task it was to move and deal with bodies and body parts. He was one of those highly skilled professionals who worked all over the world in places like Bosnia and the Middle East, checking mutilated bodies found in mass graves, or who had been victims of suicide bombings, cataloguing their injuries and helping to establish the cause of death. He pulled out an empty chair and sat down. Jakes could see by the expression on his face that it wasn't good news. "You got a moment, Nate?" Jakes saved his work, closed his laptop and sat back. "Sure, Gino, what can I do for you?" Valenta sighed heavily. "At the moment, Nate, it looks like there was only one body on board when the plane went down." Jakes wasn't completely surprised. Passengers often got thrown clear when a plane crashed. 3 souls on board according to the manifest. He thought about it for a moment, which means we have to find 2 bodies. Valenta shook his head slowly. I don't think we will. Jake's expression changed immediately. Say that again? Valenta breathed in deeply. We've got people searching the area, but I'm pretty sure we won't find any more bodies. This made Jake sit up. Why on earth do you say that? Valenta began tapping the tabletop with his finger. Circumstances of death, mate. Reasons for it. I've seen enough strange ones in my time. Sometimes they lead you way off track, make you think you know who, why and how, but then you learn something that completely blows your mind. Meaning? Valenta stopped tapping. There was only one soul on board when that plane crashed, and as far as we can tell, that was the pilot. There was no co-pilot, no passenger. He leaned in a little closer, his face set hard. I've seen enough injuries in crashes to make a reasonable assumption of how death occurred, and this one has got me worried. And there isn't much left of the poor sod, but I can tell he was still strapped in seat when the plane hit. A lot of the cockpit smashed into his face and wiped it out completely. But there was something else. He touched the back of his head. I found a wound which is not consistent with what I would expect in these circumstances. He leaned forward and placed both hands on the table. Nate, I've seen enough of these when I've examined bodies in mass graves. The pilot was dead before the plane hit the ground. He paused and leaned back in his chair. He'd been shot in the head.